May 13, 2024, News Report 1. On May 13, 2024, the Philippine Presidential Office issued a statement on May 11, stating that China is conducting land reclamation at the Scarborough Shoal and dumping broken coral reefs onto the sandbanks. The Scarborough Shoal is located 71 nautical miles from Balwang Province in the Philippines and is a convergence point for Philippine vessels. The statement pointed out that dozens of Chinese ships, including research vessels and warships, have appeared at the Scarborough Shoal, which is shocking. The Philippine Coast Guard has dispatched ships to monitor China's land reclamation activities and has deployed 2 additional ships to patrol the nearby waters. China has been conducting large-scale land reclamation in the South China Sea since 2013, building airports and other military facilities for the Air Force, causing concern among the United States and neighboring countries. The Philippines has just concluded joint military exercises in the South China Sea, and Chinese Coast Guard ships are training at the Huangyan Island. CCTV reported that Chinese Coast Guard ships recently conducted regular maritime rescue training in the waters of Huangyan Island. The report stated that Chinese Coast Guard ships regularly conduct maritime rescue training in the waters of Huangyan Island to ensure the safety of Chinese crew members. China's provocative actions in the South China Sea are becoming more frequent, including the use of water cannons by Chinese Coast Guard ships on April 30 to attack Philippine vessels, resulting in damage to the vessels. On May 2, the Philippine Department of Foreign Affairs summoned China's acting ambassador to the Philippines, Zhou Zhiyong, to protest. The Philippines believes that China's actions in the South China Sea are escalating, not only occupying territory but also continuing to reclaim land, which is highly provocative in the South China Sea region. The Philippines pointed out that China seems to be preparing for a violent action in the South China Sea, rather than seeking to reduce conflict. The two sides' opinions are diverging, which could lead to more serious conflicts. News Report 2. The United Daily News of Taiwan reported that President-elect Lai Ching-te of Taiwan will be inaugurated on May 20. The report disclosed the content of the inauguration speech in advance, stating that the inauguration speech will emphasize the commitment to unchanged and goodwill relations across the Taiwan Strait, and hopes to send goodwill to China. The report stated that Lai Ching-te will further elaborate on the 4 pillars of democracy and peace proposed during the election, based on the 4 insists proposed by President Tsai Ing-wen. Tsai Ing-wen proposed 4 insists during the Double 10 speech in 2021, insistence on the constitutional system of freedom and democracy, insistence that the Republic of China and China are not subordinate to each other, insistence on sovereignty and inviolability, and insistence that the future of the Republic of China, Taiwan, must follow the will of all Taiwanese people. Last July, Lai Ching-te proposed 4 pillars in a Wall Street Journal article: strengthening national defense, strengthening the economy, strengthening people's livelihoods, and maintaining the status quo. The report quoted Democratic Progressive Party sources as saying that Lai Ching-te's speech will mainly continue the two-straight policy of the Tsai Ing-wen government for 8 years. He will not succumb to pressure, but will not follow the original model, hoping that the two sides can communicate and dialogue on an equal footing. Former chairman of the Mainland Affairs Council, Chiu Chuangcheng, proposed 2 formal principles in an interview with the China Times in April. First, to objectively recognize that the Republic of China is a sovereign state. Second, to recognize the Taiwanese people's adherence to democratic values and way of life. Democratic Progressive Party sources said that Chiu Chuangcheng's 2 formal principles are important references for Lai Ching-te's inauguration speech. Lu Jinkai, a professor of public affairs at Fo Guang University in Taiwan, said that Lai Ching-te's characterization of cross-strait relations is relatively mild and pragmatic, avoiding controversy. This approach is wise, not only avoiding giving the other party an excuse, but also beneficial to the handling by the United States. News Report 3. Russian President Putin signed a presidential decree on May 12 appointing First Deputy Prime Minister Belousov as Russia's defense minister, and at the same time appointing current Defense Minister Shoigu as the secretary of the Russian Federation Security Council. Belousov's appointment was unexpected because he is a civilian official studying economics, not a military officer. Kremlin spokesman Peskov said that this arrangement is because Russia's military spending accounts for a large proportion of national spending and needs to ensure that defense spending is in line with the country's overall interests. Putin submitted a plan to the Federal Council to ensure that Russia's defense spending is in line with the country's overall interests. Putin also submitted a list of new government officials to the Federal Council, most of whom will remain in their positions, including Chief of the General Staff Gerasimov. Gerasimov is a core figure in commanding operations, while Shoigu mainly serves as a counselor and advisor to Putin. After launching the Ukraine war, Putin believed that Shoigu had not achieved the expected results, so he transferred him, which means that Putin is dissatisfied with the progress of the war and is expected to intervene in the war himself. In addition, the Russian army intensified its bombing of the Kharkov region on May 13 and expanded the front line to fire at more than 30 frontline positions. Since May 10, the Russian army has crossed the previous demarcation line and launched attacks on Kharkov from the Lipovyi and Vovchansk locations, reportedly occupying 100 square kilometers of land. The Ukrainian General Staff issued a statement on Facebook, saying that Russia has added 5 battalions of troops, and that Russian troops are currently achieving tactical success. News Report 4. According to Voice of America, the Israeli army has returned to the northern Gaza Strip and resumed its attacks on Hamas, while expanding its attacks on the southern Gaza city of Rafah. On the evening of May 11, the Israeli army carried out airstrikes on Jabalia in northern Gaza and conducted intensive ground bombing. On May 12, the Israeli army sent tanks into Jabalia to carry out military operations. Israeli military spokesman Hagari said that Hamas has been found to be rebuilding its military capabilities in northern Gaza in recent weeks, so the Israeli army has taken action to prevent Hamas from rebuilding its military capabilities in northern Gaza. Hagari also said that the Israeli army continues to carry out precise strikes against Hamas in Rafah, killing dozens of Hamas terrorists and discovering tunnels and a large number of weapons. On the other hand, the Washington Post reported that President Biden is trying to persuade Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu not to attack Rafah and to give Hamas a last chance. Biden promised to help Israel locate Hamas leader Sinwar. The United States is currently cooperating with Egypt to find tunnels that cut off Rafah from the Egyptian border. But according to the Israeli newspaper Haaretz, Sinwar may not be hiding in Rafah, but in the tunnels of Khan Yunis. Biden said at a fundraising event in Seattle that if Hamas agrees to release hostages, the war between Israel and Hamas can cease the next day. Biden said that Israel has stated that a ceasefire depends on Hamas. However, British Foreign Secretary Cameron said that the UK does not agree to stop supplying weapons to Israel, as stopping the supply of weapons may strengthen Hamas's strength. News Report 5. According to BBC, British police arrested 3 men in May, accusing them of assisting Hong Kong intelligence in monitoring dissidents in the UK, violating UK national security laws. The 3 men appeared in court for the first time on May 13 in London. One of the arrested men is Yuan Songbiao, 63 years old, a former Hong Kong police officer who served as the administrative manager at the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office in London. Yuan studied at Charles Sturt University in Australia, where he was classmates with the current Hong Kong chief executive Carrie Lam. In 2019, he became the administrative manager at the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office in London. Another arrested man is Wei Zhiliang, 38 years old, who owns a private security company. Wei joined the British Navy after graduating from high school and served in combat in Afghanistan and Iraq. After retiring, he became a police officer and then established a security company. The third arrested person is British citizen Matthew Triddick, 37 years old, also a security consultant. He began tracking and monitoring former Legislative Council member Nathan Law and former Secretary General of the Confederation of Trade Unions Meng Xiaoda in 2021. This arrest demonstrates that Western countries have begun to take action against transnational repression operations. News Report 6. China's National Security Department posted on WeChat on May 13, stating that a foreign professor stole sensitive data such as geography, meteorology, and biology from Chinese nature reserves, posing a risk to national security. The article did not mention the professor's name specifically but claimed that with the assistance of Chinese people, the professor collected data in national-level nature reserves and claimed the data was classified as a state secret. The article also claimed that the professor received support from foreign NGOs. This move may be interpreted as the National Security Department attempting to use the media to convey information, warning researchers and the public at home and abroad to strengthen monitoring and prevention in sensitive areas such as national reserves. At the same time, it may also be seen as a warning and deterrent against potential violations of state secrets. News Report 7. Radio Free Asia reported that Chinese citizen journalist Zhang Zhan was released from prison on May 13, but he has not yet gained true freedom. As of 7:30 p.m. that evening, there was no news about Zhang Zhan, and no one knew if he had been released or if he had returned home. The report pointed out that Zhang Zhan's family was under tremendous pressure, with the Chinese government warning them not to accept media interviews or answer calls from journalists or friends. Zhang Zhan went to Wuhan to report on the epidemic in 2020 and was arrested in May of the same year. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison in December. In addition, rights activist Guo Feixiong, who is serving his sentence in Sihui Prison, Guangdong Province, is rapidly deteriorating in health. Guo Feixiong's family revealed that he has been on a hunger strike for nearly a year, and now weighs only 41.5 kilograms. He has irregular fevers, frequent dizziness, and instability when standing. The prison has subjected him to forced nasal feeding. In January 2021, Guo Feixiong went to the United States to visit his critically ill wife but was blocked by the Chinese government. In January 2022, Guo Feixiong's wife passed away in the United States. In May of last year, the Chinese government sentenced Guo Feixiong to 8 years in prison on charges of incitement. Additionally, the Congressional Executive Commission on China released its annual report for 2023 on May 10, stating that the Chinese government continues to violate religious freedom, minority rights, and women's rights. The report also mentioned that the Chinese government uses high technology for surveillance, censorship, and suppression of basic freedoms both domestically and internationally. News Report 8. Amnesty International, a non-governmental organization, published a report on May 13 stating that the Chinese government is suppressing Chinese students abroad. The report is titled, "I Feel Afraid in My Campus." Amnesty International interviewed dozens of Chinese students in 8 Western countries, including 12 from Hong Kong. These students said they were prohibited from posting information on social media and were under surveillance. Some students said that after participating in human rights activities abroad, their families were threatened. These threats included dismissal, restrictions or denial of receiving pension benefits, and even restrictions on personal freedom. The report pointed out that Chinese students live under intimidation and surveillance, leading them to self-censorship in classrooms and social activities, and even causing mental health problems. These mental health issues include stress, trauma, paranoia, and depression. News Report 9. Federal Reserve Governor Bowman said at the Texas Bankers Association annual convention that it is not appropriate to cut interest rates this year. He pointed out that disappointing U.S. inflation data in recent months will take a long time to be sure that the inflation rate will return to the target track of 2%. Achieving the inflation target is a prerequisite for the Fed to cut interest rates. He also stated that the federal funds rate will remain at its current level for a longer period. This indicates that the expectation of a Fed rate cut is continuing to cool down. News Report 10. According to Yonhap News Agency, South Korean Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi held talks in Beijing on May 13, the first meeting between the foreign ministers of South Korea and China in 6 years. Cho Tae-yeol pointed out that South Korea and China should control their differences, prevent them from escalating into conflicts, and continue to maintain a good cooperative posture. Wang Yi said that recently there have been increasing twists and tests in China-South Korea relations, which is not in the interest of both countries. China is willing to strengthen communication and cooperation, eliminate external interference, and promote China-South Korea relations together. Cho Tae-yeol emphasized that the purpose of this visit to China is to untangle the complex lines between China and South Korea and take the first step in promoting China-South Korea relations. News Report 11. Shanghai private equity fund company Ruofengda suddenly absconded, with the person in charge fleeing with the funds, and the company's premises deserted. According to a report on May 13, reporters from the Beijing News visited the office of Ruofengda and found that the entire building's entrance and exit had been closed, with the gate locked and a notice posted stating that the Pudong New Area Economic Investigation Brigade had requested the temporary closure of the building. According to a report by First Financial, investors said they had purchased Ruofengda's fund products, with amounts ranging from 3 million to 30 million, mostly purchased through sales or agents and currently unable to redeem them. Ruofengda's products had accumulated returns of over 50% in the 2 years before the crisis, with the highest reaching 80%. However, they absconded with the funds before redemption. Ruofengda's products were heavily invested in new third-board stocks, but these stocks had poor liquidity and fundamentals, resulting in a situation of buying high and selling low. Public data shows that Ruofengda was established in October 2016, with the actual controller being Chiu Wenlong, with a registered capital of 30 million and actual paid-up capital of only 7.5 million. The company's custodians include CMB Securities, CITIC Securities, Huatai, GF Securities, Galaxy Securities, among others. Ruofengda paid commissions to sales channels as high as 4 points, leading to hot sales, but ultimately resulted in a bankruptcy event. News Report 12. May 12 was the 16th anniversary of the Wenchuan earthquake. Many parents who lost their children returned to Juyuan Middle School in Dujianjian to mourn the children who died. Juyuan Middle School collapsed in the 2008 Wenchuan earthquake. Today, what used to be the site of Juyuan Middle School has been replaced by high-rise buildings. However, the police did not allow parents to enter the residential area to mourn, they could only place flowers and offerings on the street. Parents said that the government is unwilling to establish a proper memorial site for them and has not held anyone accountable for the Tofudreg projects at that time. They believe this is a problem caused by the government itself. On that day, a large number of police maintained order at Juyuan Middle School, preventing parents from taking photos and prohibiting reporters from interviewing. This shows that the CCP authorities have taken a tough stance on this issue but also show their vulnerability to this matter.